And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the HVAC 2.0 show. Today, for right now, it's just going to be me and Ted for a little bit. And you were just talking about, you were talking with someone.
Yeah, and I have these conversations with folks, and they give me collaborative discussion causes some interesting ideas. Because I've been spending some time thinking about. Well, one of the things I'd really like to understand is I went and visited an HVAC guy, and as we were talking, he brought up a term I hadn't heard before, and he called it callback purgatory. And so I asked him, how much, what was the cause of callback purgatory? And the answer is, well, sometimes it's bad installation and sometimes it's improper sales. And sometimes it's a combination of the two. And I was asked, and there were two guys there, and I asked one of them what the percentage split for cause, what he thought the percentage split was. And one of the fellows said he thought it was, 70% install, 30% sales. And the other guy's like, no, I think it's more than 50-50. And it's really hard to understand for the tribe because you guys are mostly all small business. And you're also kind of unicorns in the industry in that you have a tremendous amount of knowledge, experience, and expertise. So, I mean, imagine, do you get much in the way of callbacks?
As far as like the callbacks that I get. Oh, you kind of froze up there for a second.
Oh gosh, and I told my network to prioritize this device, so I guess that didn't work. What was your answer?
So, well, I was clarifying the question. So, was it about the like callbacks that I get personally?
Yeah, right. You get called. That's a call in. You get called in to fix somebody else's problem. I say you're getting called in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get like, are there installations where, I mean, imagine the callbacks that you have probably have to do with adjusting the commissioning to better fit the house.
Really, and I know this is something that I guess to start with, the way that I define a callback, I know some people, they like to be like, oh, well, this one's they go back to the call, but they don't call it a callback for XYZ reason. I typically just keep it very straightforward in that, did I have to go back unplanned? Yes or no? No matter
Right.
what the reason, if it is,
That's
it's a callback.
that's what I would just describe a callback, and then you
Yeah.
wanna filter
Yeah.
what the reason was.
Yeah.
So
And so
those can go into separate categories.
yeah. So for me, uh, I the most common callback that I typically get is it's either like, I guess one category will be like, on occasion I'll have like these weird like not basket case, but oddball anomaly callbacks where just, you did something. For one was an instance of, I ended up having to replace a breaker. And what was it? Was it
So
just a
the
breaker?
breaker was worn
Yeah.
out from the old
Yeah.
equipment, and you didn't
Yeah.
put a new breaker in when you
Yeah.
put the new equipment in, and
Yeah, it
okay.
was in the panel, and so I had to do that, and on the same one, I ended up actually having to go back again, and the reason for it was that the supplied voltage from the power utility was on
Oh,
the higher side. It wasn't quite out of range, but for some reason, the surge protector or the voltage monitor was kicking out the unit when it got too high. but then it was getting down just about 1 or 2 volts below the threshold, and it wasn't kicking back in, and so I had to widen the settings. And so I've
Okay.
had little things like that. Aside from those, it's really just been like connectivity issues with the control. Like, oh my, the control's not connected to Wi-Fi anymore, and I can't figure out, what's going on, or user error.
Okay.
I've had I've had that where it's just, when you, especially on communicating stuff, it's someone they go from a super simple, like you slide a switch over to cool mode, and then you press, it's got 2 buttons on it to go up and down for your set point. Like when someone goes from that type of thermostat to a touchscreen control that they're connecting their phone to, sometimes they don't quite understand how to use it. And
Right.
so, those are by far the most common. Uh, but I mean, overall for the industry, though, I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was the EPA that did some study, and they said that nine of the ones that they had checked, 90% had detectable faults upon install. So, as
Oh,
90% of systems had significant issues that were detectable. And
at commissioning, they
yes,
should have been detected.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's the it kind of puts into frame, which I completely agree with, because really you go pick any random install and go analyze it. You can find something that's not right. It's
Right.
just the question is to what how detrimental it is. And what we typically will see is that it may be significantly altered of how it should be, but it's so oversized that it all gets like whitewashed into the margin
Right. Right.
of,
It's all in that
oversized.
whole, it's oversized, so we were gonna have a hell of a time fixing this problem.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think a lot of things just get masked, and that's really I've I've kind of been trying to figure out how to go about like different service calls of someone that's a new customer, for just like, okay, you go into an install, there's 20 different things that you see there that there's a problem. So it kind of poses a problem of, okay, well, do I just slam them with a 20-point bullet list of all the problems that I find? Or do I
Right.
pick out the most important ones, and then each time I'm there, point out things, but then it's just like each time I'm the one that's bringing up, issues, and they may, perceive that different ways. It's like it poses a different problem when you're going behind some of these things of trying to figure out like how do you navigate, because until you replace the unit, I mean,
You're
it's
gonna fix one
endless.
thing, it's gonna cause
Yeah.
another problem, and then yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so it gets tricky, and that's kind of been a difficulty of trying to figure out the best way to navigate those situations of, okay, well, your return duct is way undersized, but your system's way oversized, and so it's choking it down and turning a 4-ton unit into a 2.5-ton unit. So, do you fix the high static problem and fix the return duct? So that way it makes the system perform the way it should, but then exacerbate the oversizing and make that problem worse. It's like it's a it's a real catch 22, type problem, and I feel like there's levels
Pre-quote
of
pre-quote almost needs to be part of the service call in a situation like that, so that you can make
yeah,
people aware of the likely load range.
yeah, uh, depending on the situation, because like one thing that makes it tricky with service calls is one of the reasons people trust service techs than they do salespeople is because service techs are typically there to fix things. And that just feels more genuine of, hey, like we're dealing with a bunch of problems, but here's what I think you should do, blah, 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 rather than just somebody trying to sell you something, even though it may be the better alternative. And so I
Right.
think it gets tricky to where, because really at the end of the day, every undersized return that you find is more than likely going to fall into that situation of going, hey, the system's being choked down massively and your system's oversized. So I've kind of started leaning into, just when
Do
find
you ask
things,
them if they would rather have equipment that fits their ductwork?
uh, no, I, I start it with, I go, before I check anything, I just go, okay, uh, you know, as I check things over, if I find things, you know, would you like me to just kind of inform you, or do you want me to just, tell you the high points, or do you not want to hear it at all? And so they'll usually like, yeah, just as you find something, just let me know. And if you
So you
find a
get
bunch of things,
permission to give them bad news before you give
yes,
them bad news. That's Sandler. Yep.
yes, exactly. And so then I find the problems, and I'll kind of make here
Do you want
I've
this in the list of priority or the list of I found them in?
yeah. Well, I will kind of I've not figured out a good framework for this. What I've kind of been working with is going, okay, I will kind of put together things and I'll have them in categories. And one of the categories is, do these problems go away with a new install? If so, I put those in a I'm likely not going to talk about this. And
Okay.
then I'll get together what are the biggest things that I see, and then I'll go, okay, well, I just want you to know, like I did find quite a bit of things. Some things, may not have to be addressed until the system's replaced. But
Oh,
where
then you
what
can
would you kind of
you can roll into how long were you thinking you were going to keep this system?
Yes. Well, then what I would typically say is, okay, well, I'll be honest with you, the way this system, this size of the system and how it's installed is likely problematic on its performance. But I just kind of want to know, like, where do you kind of fall? Do you want your system to like last as long as it can, and us focus our priorities on making the system work well, or are we okay with kind of keeping it as is and sacrifice the durability, but maintain a little bit better comfort in the house? And
Okay,
I
I
want to
like
gauge,
that.
I want to see what direction they want to go. If they're like, no, like comfort's more important to me, well, then I go, okay, well, I'll just want you to know, like, there's a lot of problems that are rooted in the system itself. If to stick with how this is going, I would recommend X, Y, and Z. And then I'll go and I'll tee it up and I'll go, now, whenever the time is that it comes to replace this, what we could look at is making improvements X, Y, and Z, so that way we can just get overall improvements. Then we can alleviate a lot of these lingering issues. We won't deal with it with the next system, and I'll leave it at that. Just kind of
Okay.
how and
Some of these problems that you have right now are system problems,
hmm
and we can avoid these system problems by just doing a better job of picking the next system.
yeah. And if somebody and a lot of people tend to just go, well, I want this unit to last as long as it can. I'll go, okay, if we want to focus on that, here's what I would do.
So
I would say we need
you're
to correct this return duct.
right.
Maybe we'll, add a large media filter to, prevent us having to unclog these drains the way we're having to clog them all the time. Keep this indoor coil clean. And then it gives me permission to go, okay, I'm only focused on the system. And then, we do corrections. And then I'll also kind of say, hey, do you track humidity? Okay, well, it might be a good idea to do that as well. And so then later on, if they're like, hey, we did all this stuff, the humidity's through the roof now, I'll be like, well, unfortunately, like we got your system back to where it's working as good as it can for the life of the system, but it seems like the size of your system versus what should be there is two different things. And really, we're trying to get as much life out of this. So you might can get some portable dehumidifiers, to address it. We can talk about whole house
We can
dehumidifiers,
make
but
it
I'll tell you they're
dehumidify
expensive.
better, but it's gonna make it
Yeah,
lifetime shorter.
yeah. And so that's kind of how I've been
Okay.
laying those things out, because that's what, as service techs you're going to run into a lot, because a lot of these callbacks and stuff are a lot of them are install induced because they're problematic to begin with, but they are kind of masked
I think
because
they're
of the
sales
sales install.
induced.
Well, they're
Yeah,
both. It's
I think if
it's
you make the wrong sale, the installer can't do anything, can he?
a lot of times they could do better. I think
Well, they could do
this is
some
why.
things,
Yeah,
but they're still got
yeah.
like one arm handcuffed to their leg.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's what gives them, that's why there's so many problems at the install, because again, a lot of the install errors lead to reduced capacity being delivered. And so you have screw up at the sale, which means you have more capacity than what's needed, and then that gets handed off to the install guy. And because of that, it puts him in a bind immediately, whether he knows it or not. A lot of them don't realize it. They install it poorly. That 4 ton doesn't do 4 tons of cooling, it does 3 tons of cooling.
Oh, and they don't even know well
and
enough
they and
the
they don't know.
airflow issues.
Exactly.
So they're like they're not taking static pressure, and they're not
Yes.
understanding what's going on with the
Oh yeah.
capacity.
Yes.
So they're guessing because they
Yes.
don't understand the importance of airflow.
Yes.
Okay, that's
And so it's a lot of pieces, like it's a lot of wrongs that that lead to a result of okayness. It's like it could be way better, but a lot of times it's not so bad that it's immediately noticed. Like
right.
the noticed problems are when the unit breaks constantly, or there's, constant like loud issues or things like that. It's not so much that the unit doesn't perform per se, because a lot of people, if you're not measuring the humidity and you stay around 60, 65%, a lot of people don't really notice that unless they've lived in a house where the humidity does stay in check. And that's not a lot of people. So most of those
Right.
things go unnoticed. And if they're just in that moderate level, that doesn't get noticed. So the oversizing of that part doesn't is so much. The back bedroom staying warmer or hotter, that's common, and that's just kind of told, oh well, it's, yeah, your back bedroom's hotter because the sun comes up and beats in on that side. There's just nothing you can do about it, and so that just gets normalized. So that's just as expected, and all these factors all come into play. And at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is, from what the contractors, when they're dealing with homeowners, is, okay, you have it set to 72. Is it 72? It is. It's doing all it can do. Oh, you've got it set to 68. It's not keeping up to 68. Well, bump it up to 70. It's not meant to keep up to 68. That's just, it's doing all it can do. Like that's that's the answers to a lot of those problems.
Okay. So I was talking to my friend Hillary today, and we came up with bad process leads to bad outcomes.
Consistent bad outcomes.
The risk of making bad decision falls 95% on the homeowner. So, in that one, I'm thinking if it maybe that needs to be more explicit in having conversations with homeowners, like no matter who you buy your system from, the risk of making a bad decision is going to pretty much fall on you. And so with our process, you're going to understand those risks. It's not that you're going to avoid them, but you have the opportunity to avoid them if you're
Yeah.
aware of them, which is a lot better than assuming those risks without even understanding them.
Yeah.
So the risk of making bad decisions falls 95% on the homeowner. And then this was another thing, because I keep running into this thing where, remember when we were talking about home performance retard?
Yeah.
So I think one of the problems in home performance is, and in HVAC, everybody, when they think about sizing, they think about sizing to the current load of the house. And I think the philosophy, the way that we're evolving with HVAC20 is sizing to the current load of the house is really the wrong way to be thinking about it. So size to the best house that house could reasonably be. And I think that falls in very nicely with likely load range, because with likely load range, we're like, okay, so this is 95% of houses this size. This is the load, their current load. These houses on the left are good houses. These houses in the middle are mediocre houses, and these houses on the right are basket case houses that are this size. But the problem is, if you size your equipment to a basket case house, one, you probably don't have enough ductwork. And two, at the end of the day, you're still going to have a basket case house. And particularly if
Yeah.
you get crappy equipment, you're going to get, cycling on and off. You're going to get all the problems, right? It's not good mixing,
Yeah.
not good load matching. All of this stuff is going to be a problem. And it's going to be worse because you got this giant equipment for that would be great for a big house in the green, but is still bad for a small house in the red. So,
Yeah.
like encouraging people to size to the green if they don't know about the house. So really what I'm trying to do is create a narrative where instead of we're thinking home performance first, we're thinking home performance later.
Yeah.
So size your equipment to the typical size that a good house this size would need. Not an amazing house, but a good house. And likely you'll have sufficient ductwork or maybe very modest duct modifications. So you won't have to replace all the ductwork in order to have the equipment operate within manufacturer specifications.
Mhm.
And then that also leads you the opportunity to say, if we go with the large equipment, you really should be replacing all the ductwork. And what we found is if you go with smaller equipment, you're going to save yourself $15,000 or $20,000 on ductwork. And then if it turns out that the equipment's too small because your house has some problems, you have $15,000 to $20,000. You probably won't need that much to reduce the load to make the house more comfortable.
Mhm.
So, would you rather spend $15,000 or $20,000 to replace your ductwork so that you got oversized ductwork for the house, so that your oversized equipment works within manufacturer specifications, which oftentimes leads to more discomfort? Like Nate's story where when he was in the installation business, he tightened people's houses up and then he'd get them calling back saying, "Wow, that made my house less comfortable." Right? It's
Yep.
like, "Oh, because your equipment's running less."
Mhm.
It's just it went from modestly oversized to grossly oversized. So,
Yep.
like, getting people to keep leaning towards the green unlikely load range, and part of that, I think, is by conveying a narrative. You know, if you size in the red and then realize that the house is still uncomfortable and then fix the house, then you run the risk of making the house even more uncomfortable by fixing it. And now you got to replace the equipment a second time because that's going to be the only solution to a fixed house that's
Yeah.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
is getting much smaller equipment that runs longer, quieter,
Yeah.
mixes better, all of those things.
Yeah.
So size to the best house that house could reasonably be. And if there are still comfort issues, like at least that way you're shifting the comfort
Yeah.
issues probably to the hottest and the coldest day. And if you're having comfort issues on the hottest and coldest day, well, now we can encapsulate the basement or redefine the attic or both. I mean, some houses
Yeah.
you can do both of those things for $15,000, and then you can have an amazing house. Also, I don't know, did I tell you about Ronnie changing his ductwork? Did we talk about that last time?
I don't think so.
Oh, so Ronnie was renovating his house, and years ago he redefined the attic and he tightened the house up, but now he's renovating his basement. So he took his green speed out of his basement and put it in his attic.
Oh, you froze up again.
Airflow's better.
Oh, hang on a second. You froze up. You said he took his green speed out of his basement to his attic, and then you froze.
Okay. And so he took his green speed from his basement to his attic. And then, of course, the ductwork is better because he wasn't connecting to existing ductwork. He designed the ductwork.
Yeah.
So, also, he's got high returns now because the returns are in the ceiling instead of the basement. So he's pulling the most humid air in the house back to the equipment. And I firmly believe that this equipment is going to do a better job of dehumidifying humid air than it is going to dehumidify less humid air.
Yeah.
So he's pulling the most humid air out of his house and back to his green speed. And so he turned the green speed back on, and everybody in the family said, "House is too cold." And so, but it's said at the same point, okay, so So he moved the set point up to 74, and his reheat dehumidification he had set at 49% or 48%. Well, it doesn't even come close to using reheat dehumidification. It doesn't go over 40%.
Oh wow.
So, like, he's like, yeah, the house seems to be running at 38%, which explains why everybody was cold.
Oh yeah.
Um, but because the screen speed is having the opportunity to breathe so much better with this new system, plus it's getting the most humid air coming back, and it's able to, run a cold coil and really pull the humidity out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Size to the best house that house could reasonably be. Yeah. So one of the things he said is after he had redefined the house, the attic, and put the green speed in, the house got so much more comfortable. He didn't think that there was a whole lot of room to get more comfortable than it was. And now that he's set the set temperature up and the humidity's lower, he's like, I thought we were already at 80 or 90% of the way there. Turns out we were only 50% of the way there because it's 100% more comfortable than it was before. And I thought it would, you know, sort of blowing my mind how comfortable this house got by just making that change. So
Oh
that
wow.
was sort of an interesting feedback.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like you're flailing around with HVAC sales? One thing Hillary said is like join the HVAC20 community. And started talking about community and how this is a community. Now, the challenge we have is this is a community of people that there's no like in the beginning there was a lot of opportunity to be mentor and mentee, and for people to share and really help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like we don't have anybody that really needs help because we don't have new people coming in that are like want to raise their bar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I thought that was an interesting idea to say that maybe we should start thinking about community. Um, so let's see. Those were the notes from the conversation today. And then I don't know if you saw that I asked Grok that question and it didn't come back with a good answer.
Yeah.
And then so I had to ask it a couple more questions, and it's like, oh yeah, probably have to add that to the first answer.
Yeah. Yeah. All the LLMs, yeah, I mean, they're all pulling from what's the most general consensus of the thing. So you're getting the most generalized knowledge, and that's what I've also found as well. Well, because I've tried those sorts of things, and if you ask questions around it, it'll kind of correct itself a little bit, but
Okay.
it still kind of draw. You can, I mean, you can tell what the training data, being what it's picking up is pointing to. Uh, I think once it gets to where it's more rooted in just basic physics and first principles thinking, then I think we'll start to see a big change there coming from the LLMs in that regard.
Yeah.
But one of the things I thought was with them mentioning like a community and stuff. I mean that might be something that could be having it could be interesting to have to be able to kind of bring people in and like maybe starting a school group. I'm not sure if you're familiar with school. It's kind of like if you took Facebook groups, but that's all it really does is it's just a place for groups. And then within those groups, there's discussions and that sort of thing that can happen similar to Facebook groups where you can make posts, people can comment back and forth, and then there's also the ability to add modules for training, such as like imagine like a Kajabi plug-in for Facebook groups. So maybe that could be something we could, think about in the future of maybe creating something like that, and new people that might be interested could come in and try to up their game, have some courses to point people to if they're really wanting to, you know, uh, be told things exactly. And we got a couple of different options we might could do to try to help people in that regard.
It's lots and lots of work to do yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's a link to I posted the link to the grok question for anybody that might be interested in checking it out. I can't think of anything else, although sounds like Ronnie's company wants to have more comfort consultants and they want him to help. And he's like, he's very strategic. So he's positioned himself like, I'm happy to help. This is what they're going to have to do in order to qualify for my help. And so one of the things that they're going to have to do is take the Kajabi courses,
Yeah.
which I think would be good because, you know,
Well,
they've had a bunch of failures getting people to be comfort consultants,
yeah.
and it seems like they keep trying the same thing without making any adjustments. And so I think Ronnie's like, look, you can keep looking for the same thing and trying to build this person that, you know, super high qualified for this job, but in order to get my help, they're going to have to earn it so that they're not wasting
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah.
Which I think is super fair.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I think it would definitely, because like,
it's
if,
frustrating to have these
yeah,
people fail.
yeah. I mean, have them, I'd be like, okay, you've got to take the Kajabi course, plus you have to have read, whichever of the Sandler books he prefers best. So that way, because that's like the
Well, and
basic
if they're going to be training for the comfort consult, they should probably read Nate's book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe even take that class, that air sealing class, because
Oh,
that
yeah.
course
If they're going to do
trains a
any,
lot.
oh, yeah.
I mean, if they're going to be doing comfort consults, they have to have an understanding of the building science. And
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a better way to learn it than that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Nate, did you see any of that video?
I did not. I forgot to
Okay,
go back. I've seen it.
I'm gonna play there's a clip that they did that's very funny. Let me know if you
Okay.
can hear this or if you can't hear it. I'm gonna play it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see.
Did you hear that?
No, I think you'll have to present
Okay. So
for it
let
to.
me okay, close this out. Sorry, guys. So how do I
Was it the Amplify Energy?
yeah, here's I can post the link.
Do you have the timestamp? I might
I
could
no,
try to.
well, no, it's a short.
Oh, it's a short.
I just
Okay. Okay.
um
Let me. Well.
I guess it would have to go into a window and be shared. This is so it's I'm too old for this. Tech
uh.
stuff is I gotta open window and then I gotta share the window and then I gotta
Yeah, you'd probably have to hit the present and then do screen share and
You
probably
you
sh
want to do it, or should I try it again?
um let's see. Send it in the put it in the chat because
Okay.
I couldn't copy that the comment.
Oh God, that's see it,
There it is.
and I pay for this. Like StreamYard's crap.
There we go. Let me share screen. We'll do tab. That's not it. There it is.
I mean, they change it so much that you have to learn. Oh, go ahead.
All right. I think it should play, but we'll see.
Or a heat pump. So this turns an air conditioner into a heat pump. Why do you want a piece of equipment that can only do half of what it's capable of? And in northern climates where we only do 4 or 5 months a year of cooling, you're not even getting 50% use out of that piece of equipment. When for $150 in parts, you can get full use out of it. That had been scratching the back of my mind for a long time.
So I thought that was kind of cool. It was a good video.
Yeah.
The only thing I thought that was missing is, everybody so badly wants home performance to happen before HVAC, but really the home performance industry is a complete it's
Yeah.
it's it's not a pimple on the ass of an ant
Yeah.
relative to the HVAC industry. So it's going to continuously be irrelevant. It's going to be a place where losers go to die, really.
Yeah.
Um, so, people with very low self-esteem go there to try to pretend that they're smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think because it makes sense as to why people go to that because it's the standard workflow for designing and creating anything. Like typically, you go, "Hey, I want a thing." Okay, well, what do? You first go, "Okay, what are the needed requirements in order to achieve the thing that we're going for?" It's X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, you establish X, Y, and Z. You finalize your design. You then go execute the thing in in that particular order, and you get the result that you want. So for us, it's okay. First, you need a controllable house. Like, what are we? That's what you're dealing with. So you get that correct first. You fix all those problems, and then you go, okay, well, now we're going to do the HVAC. You do that last because that's that is contingent on everything before it. So then you go do the HVAC, and then you're done. The problem is that homeowners, especially, they do not see it that way. And if they do understand it, they're going to get things kind of mixed up in what they're going to be seeing anyways. And so it creates this problem where you have to solve for a problem that they don't even know that they're going to have yet. And so as
Right.
the professional, it creates this you're not just fixing the problem, you're having to lead the problem. The same way a quarterback has to lead the receiver, where you're throwing it 3 feet in front of them, depending on how fast the receiver is, you're having to do the same thing. You're having to lead the homeowner in the direction that the problems are going to occur and solve problems before the problems arrive. And that is done with sizing the HVAC aggressively for a good house and then only doing home performance when absolutely necessary. And most people
When it
won't
turns
need
out
it.
that the house was a crappy house.
Yes, which is going to be a small percent.
It's going to be a very small percent. And those people are going to call back and they're like, remember that comfort console you offered? Well, I guess I do need it.
Yeah.
Or should I do a redefine of my basement or my attic?
Yes. Yeah.
So here's another thing that I wrote is most people don't want to do home performance. And then most people don't need to do home performance. And then get the HVAC right. So even if they do need to do home performance, they don't have to replace their HVAC a second time after doing home performance.
Yes.
Now, the person I had this conversation with is like, yeah, HVAC is sadly the only likely path. Well, my response to that is it's not sad if you reframe HVAC only to HVAC first. Because that's what the homeowner wants anyway. They called
Yeah.
you there to replace the damn HVAC. They don't want you selling them home performance. They want you, they want to see whether or not you can solve the problem at hand.
Yeah.
So it keeps getting clearer that home performance was wrong. Home performance first was wrong for homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say that. It keeps getting clearer that home performance first was wrong for homeowners. And a good interview will uncover you may need to do some home repairs, improvements. You know, there are some obvious prescriptive things like encapsulate the attic and crawl, or we can do a comfort consult to get a clearer picture of where you have deficiencies.
Yeah. Because
Well, the other thing is, and then to reduce the risk of even needing home performance, get better equipment. Because we found a lot of times better equipment will smooth out the rough edges of home performance issues.
Yes. Because I mean, at the end of the day, for homeowners, it works. It functions the same way like what Ronnie kind of did, where they're in a spot that they feel like is good. They're like, oh well, we're 80% there, but they don't even realize, they won't realize it until it's already done. And so, when you're leading with something that they just don't get at all, of like, I can't understand how this is going, how is this air sealing going to help me whatsoever? They're not going to get that. But if you can at least go, okay, well, they know you're there for HVAC reasons to begin with. They do
Address them.
understand HVAC.
Yeah.
And so you get them the right equipment there that can, if anything's going to get their wheels a turning, is going to be, okay, get them really good HVAC in and let them feel a huge difference there. And then go, okay, well, just so you know, we did the, blah, blah, blah. And, you're feeling a lot better improvements here. But, I just want to point out, hey, your crawl space is very damp. Your system
Something you
is
might want to address,
yeah.
particularly if you can't control your relative humidity.
Yeah, and so you can create this like they get to taste what
It's a
comfort
loading
can feel
order.
like, and then they
Right.
can go,
Oh my
okay,
God, that guy knew what he was talking about. My house is a whole lot more comfortable.
yes,
Now I'm more comfortable asking his advice on this next step
yes, and
because he
and it
clearly didn't have his head up his behind.
yes, and you might not get everything all in one go, which is perfectly fine because
Well,
guess what?
people
Everyone
get
has
money over time.
yeah, everyone has a budget, but it's not they don't have one budget forever. That's their
No,
budget for right then.
they
So
got
do
a
you
budget
want
for
to
right now.
do
Right.
you want to spread it thin with mediocre stuff to do a bunch of things all at once? Or do you want to load all the available budget into the most important thing, get the
That
best
they got
equipment
right
possible,
now.
and go from there? Like,
Yes.
to me, that's one of the things of, okay, if we're limited, if we have a limited budget, well, guess what? I want to put all my money on getting the best equipment I can with a large return drop and a large media filter. Everything
Yep.
else we can sprinkle in and add later. We don't get fresh air yet. Whoop-de-doo. Open a window on occasion. You can do all the other things later. And crawl space encapsulation, blah blah blah. It's like get the core components first, and then let the change of going from that old crappy equipment that was oversized to the new equipment that's properly sized, let that difference that they feel there then open up the discussion for the further improvements. Oh, you thought
Right.
that was good. Well,
You thought that was good. We could probably make it a whole lot better by encapsulating your crawl space
yes, yes.
and reducing the humidity in the house. And then you can run with a higher temperature setting, and then
Hmm.
your wife will be happier. And you'll be just as comfortable because it's going to be a lower relative humidity.
Yeah. And also you got to keep in mind, what's the average life, or the average time people goes before selling their house is like 7 years. If someone is not planning on living in a house forever, they probably are not going to want to spend the money to do, home performance, crawl space encapsulation, blah blah blah. But if they're getting HVAC, they're spending the money anyways. So you're not
So you're
spending
only asking them for the incremental cost of the better equipment
exactly.
that adds in, like, so which of these 6 functions here do you want on this replacement equipment
Exactly.
that you don't have now?
Yeah. It's like, sure, you may sell in 7 years, but guess what? You're going to be living in it for 7 years.
In the
And
meantime, how miserable
yeah,
do you want to
yeah,
be the same miserable that you are now, or do you want to make some of that misery go away?
yeah. And also, you're not like with home performance, you're having to sell the full amount. Say it costs 15,000, twenty
Oh
thousand
my
dollars for the home.
God.
You're selling $20,000 worth of work. But when it comes to getting better equipment, you're not selling the total price of the equipment. You're selling the difference between that good equipment and that bottom end equipment. You're just
Right.
selling that differential. And that's a lot easier to sell than it is oh, you need a totally separate thing that costs $20,000, $15,000, whatever it is,
Right.
versus no, you just need to spend $8,000 more.
Right.
You're already going to be spending 12. You got to make some corrections, blah blah blah. Spend an extra 8, an extra 9, and you can get the best equipment on the market. Or if you don't want to spend that, hey, or you can even step it up. Be like, okay, well, we got the super top end package.
Or
It
we
costs
could do
32,000.
the Daikin
But
Fit is gonna be not all
yeah,
that much more money and
yeah,
a whole lot better than that piece of crap we're taking out.
yes, exactly. And then use that as a step up. Hey, at
That's
a min
awesome.
bump up a few thousand, you can get this Daikin Fit. It's going to be a whole lot better option. But if you can swing it, you can get a lot better improvement even over the Daikin Fit with this, Carrier Bryant 20 series. Blah
Mhm.
blah blah. Like, you're selling in the difference,
You're selling
and
in the
that's
difference.
and that's so
Right.
much easier than all the other stuff. And also you got to keep in consideration if you're there for HVAC and you're selling, it's easier to sell one
Well,
singular
the other
thing than
thing
it is
about
to
home
sell five.
performance is it was such a lie, because 'cause they're telling people that it pays for itself in energy
Oh
savings.
yeah, yeah.
And it's
Well,
like, you're
which
only spending $100, $200 a month for heating and cooling. How's that $20,000 coming back to you?
yeah,
I mean, do you think that it's not gonna cost 70 or $80 a month once you fix the house? Like, how much do you really think you're gonna save? You're not it's like, "Oh, geez, I should get a Toyota Prius because of all the gas it'll save me." Well, you only drive 5,000 miles a year.
yeah,
I mean, how
yeah.
many miles do you drive? Well, you gotta
Hmm.
ask the question, how many miles do you drive?
Oh
Are
yeah,
are you driving 30,000 miles a year? Well, then maybe the math makes some sense. But
yeah,
if you're only driving 4, 5, 6,000 miles, you're not even gonna notice
yeah,
over that pickup truck that got 12 miles to the gallon.
yes, yeah. Which
You're gonna
that is,
notice that you don't have the pickup, though, when you wanna go get wood or
yeah,
drywall or I mean,
yeah. So, moral to the story, just get a Cybertruck and have the best of both worlds. You're going to outperform the Prius wise in there, plus you're going to outperform the pickup. Simple fix.
and you're gonna outperform the Challenger, and you're gonna outperform the Corvette, and you're gonna outperform the Alright, so how long have we been here?
Well, we're crossing the 49-minute mark. Well,
Does it matter if we make it to an hour?
uh,
Is there some,
I don't
like,
think so.
algorithm thing?
Not.
Can
No.
we go to the after?
Let's do it. Well, all right, everyone. Thanks for coming back. We'll catch you again in 2 weeks.